trying to figure out the speech that he gave at the Area A1 speech contest at the end of March, why that didn't work. He sent a copy of it to Marnie Schroer, who won the District 9 contest in May and competed in the semifinal round at the International Conference in Orlando. After reading it, Marnie asked, "What are you trying to tell us, other than that you want to win a speech contest?" Good question. Lloyd violated the cardinal rule of contest speaking, or actually, of any speaking. Rather than making the point of his speech clear, he expected the audience viewing him to infer the point. That's because he didn't actually know the point himself. So here he is, with the world premiere of his new contest speech, Lloyd Smith and Remembering the Future.
I was there the night that it happened. I was a 10-year-old kid standing in a neighbor's yard in the Spokane Valley on the evening of October 4th, 1957. That was the night the future began. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, yes, I was with about a dozen kids and a few adults, looking up toward the west, waiting for the first artificial satellite, Russia's Sputnik 1, to appear overhead. Right on schedule, there it was, a tiny white dot crossing the sky from west to east. A shortwave radio that the neighbor had tuned to the satellite's frequency began beeping regularly. That was it. The only thing that that beach ball-sized satellite could do was transmit that beep. But that was more than enough. A doorway to the future had opened before us. Through it, we could see giant wheel-shaped space stations with hotels and amusement parks. We could see regular tourist flights to the resorts on the moon and then on to Mars. We could see colonists settling the solar system and then spreading out to the galaxy beyond. It was all really going to happen. And soon, too, we were going to do it all. And I mean we personally, we kids standing in that backyard in the Spokane Valley, looking up at that satellite, listening to it beep. What an incredible time to be alive. Well, it's been about 56 years since that night, and I still haven't had my vacation on Mars. What happened to the future? Now, obviously, a future occurred. After all, here we are in 2013. But what about that particular future, the one that we saw so clearly that night in 1957? I thought I was going to sneeze. Let's see, what about that particular future, the one we saw so clearly that night in 1957? Abraham Lincoln once said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. I think Lincoln meant that in two ways. To create the future, we first must imagine it. That's what we were doing in that backyard. But that's not enough. Creating the future also requires that we keep alive the vision that we have imagined. We have to nurture it. We have to defend it against cheaper or safer or more convenient futures that compete with it. Creating the future requires single-minded focus. When we lose that focus on our vision of the future, they begin to fade, and we begin to forget them. That's what happened in the years since 1957. Nearly everybody simply forgot our vision of the future. George Santayana once said, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." I think it's equally true that those who cannot remember the future are condemned not to have it. Remembering the future is how we capture the sense of the possible that we need in order to create that future. You can experience this for yourself right now. Do this for a moment. Cast your memory back into your childhood, to the time when you were roughly 10 years old. Do you remember one of the possible futures you dreamed of for yourself when you were that old? Bring it to the forefront of your mind. Can you see it as vividly right now as you imagined it then when you were a child? If so, then this room is filled with an infinitude of futures, of possibilities, of dreams, and all of us are the richer for it. That's because when we remember the future, we affirm our faith in the possible. When we remember the future, we affirm a truth that we knew for a certainty when we were children, and that is that our dreams matter. They matter more than anything. Look again at that future that I asked you to remember a moment ago. Examine yourself carefully and notice something important. You are not looking backward, wistfully or fearfully. That's because you're not going backward. You are looking forward and upward, filled with hope, while your thoughts, your dreams soar toward the infinite possibilities that await them, that await you. Now, none of us are 10 years old anymore, and we know that certain of our childhood dreams, such as becoming a prima ballerina or a professional football player, are just not going to happen. But every one of us has possible futures in our memories that we need to bring forward and remember again. And we need to remember them the way that we imagined them when we were children, with a sense of hope and wonder. You can still have one of those futures for yourself, you know. It's not too late. It's never too late.